Hi. So we've been having some fun this afternoon trying to discover the internet. And Tanya's had about 7 runs of trying to do it from her end. So I'm going to try and attempt to do it from here. And let's see. I'm not sure. Oh, hold on a second. This this could work. This could work. It says that she's adding. Who knows? Now it's saying that it's going to.
Oh my God.
It happened!
Woohoo!
I cannot tell you the number of times I've been in your little screen where you are now, that little box going, I'm here. You can't see me, but I'm here.
Oh my God.
Oh, isn't it amazing?
Oh,
We've,
I hate technology so much. I'm
we've
wondering if
cracked
the
the
people
internet.
so if the people from my page, can they find me?
I'm
Will it
not
say that I'm
sure.
live? Who knows? Okay.
I'm very unclear. I'll be honest. But I think we can invite
Ashley
people.
found us. Ashley, amazing. You found us through, I don't know how, I don't understand how this works, but Jen's internet is clearly better than mine. So,
Evidently.
so,
Oh, it's
all
so
right.
funny.
So it's only what, 40 minutes after we said we would start. That's fine.
I think that's really reasonable. I mean, people have nothing to do but wait for us to make a Facebook Live. So I
Oh
feel
my
like it's a really good use of our
God.
time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Um,
And we,
I'm
we have
gonna
so
attempt.
much to live up for now. It's ridiculous.
I
It's like people
know.
are gonna like, I've been waiting half an hour for this. It better be bloody good.
It's
So
true. I hope not to disappoint too much. Um, oh, you got notified. Ashley says the internet works. That's
it's not broken.
fantastic.
My internet
No,
is broken. Maybe everybody else is working. Mine is broken big time.
it's possible.
Anyway, but we have Kate here, and there's a few people. I'm amazed. It's wonderful. So we're not alone in the internet universe. So that's good.
That's
As
great.
much as I love talking to you, regardless, even if no one else is listening, because we could
That's
talk
right.
birthy stuff all day long. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so I don't do well, given that I think you got this going, I think I'm going to give you the honor of introducing and kicking this off
Oh,
first
thank you.
because you made it happen.
Well, it was definitely teamwork, but this is it. So this is welcome to the call because who
Woohoo.
doesn't love a pun? And I'm Jen Hazi. I'm a midwife and a childbirth educator and an occasional doula, trainer, person, mentor. And I'm joined by the amazing Tanya Strusberg, who can definitely introduce yourself.
Mm-hmm. And I should also add you are mum extraordinaire of how many,
Well, yeah,
15, 16 children? I can't remember
uh,
how many.
I've lost count. Yes, I've used my uterus, so very happy with that.
It's been
Um,
put to good use.
yeah, absolutely. And yourself, please?
So, hello everybody. So, I am Tanya, and I'm in Melbourne. I'm the founder of Birth Well Birthright. I'm a Lamaze childbirth educator, also sometime doula, and I guess program director of the Lamaze Educator Training Program. So,
I guess.
slowly but surely, building the Lamaze Australia empire in Australia as we become kind of bigger and stronger here, which is very exciting. So, and other than that, yeah, I'm on the Lamaze International Board of Directors, and I've used my uterus a couple of times as well. Not as many times as you have, but I have two little people, my son who's 9 and my daughter who is 8. And yeah, so and maybe tell people why we thought we needed to do more things in our life and add this, but it seemed like a really good idea.
I did. I mean, I'll be honest, at this moment, I'm not quite sure the exact reasoning, but I feel like I feel like the sorts of conversations that you and I keep having and
Yeah.
maybe enjoy having and having with a variety of different people, you know, we kind of thought let's take it on the road
Yeah.
and let everybody else be a part of it.
Absolutely. Interstate. It's like crossing
Yes,
bi state lines or whatever it is. But yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I was sort of trying to do this on my own essentially a little while ago. And, there's a little bit of, it's a bit like, if a fall tree's in the woods, does anybody hear it type of thing. I felt a little bit like that poor tree. So I thought at least I can talk to one other person about all this stuff. But I know there's lots of people that you're connected with in your community and through your network of kind of birth professionals and allied health professionals, and so am I here in Melbourne. And
Mm.
so I thought that really, I mean, given we share this sort of common passion, and as do many of us, that it would just be a really good way for us to kind of look at some of the big issues and stories and media stuff that's coming out in the realm of pregnancy, birth, even a little bit into the early parenting, given there's always, there is a crossover. And then just, if we want this to, we don't want this to be the two of us talking, as entertaining as that is for the two of us, but
Absolutely.
we want people to join in the conversation and make this a really kind of engaging, multi-way conversation. So, and by all
Yeah.
means, if there's topics I think that as we go on, people feel like they would like raised or to kind of bring in, by all means, post that or message in either of our pages. So,
That's
yeah.
right. And I
So,
think that's the excitement and the wonder of Facebook when we figure out how to use it, and social media in general, is we get the chance to actually have these really cool group and much wider conversations about the things that are coming up. So it's not just individuals like you and myself having slight rage strokes on occasion at the internet. We could actually potentially talk about things and then put it into, I guess, maybe more practical sort of
yeah.
ways of working towards better and greater things for women, for babies, for all sorts of wonderful people in that
Yeah,
world.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So we found a few stories. I'll tell you what, there is no
Yep.
shortage of juicy
No.
material and good stuff to talk about there. It's almost like, what do we not talk about? Because we'd
Yeah.
be here for
Yeah.
4 hours.
Absolutely.
So yeah, there were a couple of interesting things that we've seen. We'd love to talk about. So we thought we'd start off with something kind of light and fluffy-ish.
Yeah. Well,
You
it's
asked
something
me
I'm
before.
very excited about. I'm very, very excited about.
You go.
Um, as an avid Dawson's Creek fan once upon a time, and a lover of the Beak, in all his many incarnations, I was just so excited this week to see his Instagram feed, and just this really beautiful, normal kind of scene of a kid in a Superman outfit and a
Yeah, yeah.
placenta in a bowl and a birth pool in the back. And
And a
yeah, it was just
vomit bag on the
a
bed.
vomit bag. Yeah, and it
Yeah,
was just really cool to see him represent. I was like, oh, James Van Der Beek had a baby. And then we discovered, no, he didn't. It's his fifth child.
absolutely. Yeah, right. Because we're such avid fans. Clearly, we're following him. We missed the
Yeah,
first four
absolutely.
babies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some of you might have. I mean, I have to admit, I've actually started following him on Insta now, because he's actually got a really cool page, and you can see families are a really big part of his life, his kids.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and yeah, so even if you didn't, even if you don't follow him on Insta, you've probably seen this photo that they posted, because it's really gone viral. And as Jen
Mm.
said, there he is. He's sitting on the floor with his beautiful newborn daughter. I think they've got four girls now, one boy, and they've called her Gwendolyn, which is quite beautiful. And there she is, just wrapped up, and he's sort of holding her, and umbilical cord still intact, and the placenta in a metal, mixing bowl, basically.
Yep.
And it's entitled Home Birth Realness, which I really love. So, and it's had massive number of likes on. You can imagine he has a big following regardless. But I just love how people like him can use their celebrity status in a really positive way and normalize the message that home birth, you know, it's normal and it's safe and it's just about having a baby. And it
Yeah.
doesn't need to be the sensationalist kind of, insanity that we sometimes see, home birth kind of paraded as as being for, fringe lunatics, basically. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
really like that he used that in a positive way.
Absolutely. And he really contextualized it as well, because I didn't see everything, but he's quite a busy Instagrammer. And I think the next day or so was just this variety of videos he'd been shooting, and he had to go back to work and finish off, and it's all this stuff about, being a new dad and being exhausted, and just really normal family
Yeah.
stuff, which I think is really nice.
Yeah.
Particularly maybe to see that for dads to be talking about all the normal sort
Yeah,
of
totally.
exhaustion that goes on with it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think just highlighting partner involvement and dads
Yeah.
being really integral in the birth process is really lovely. So two thumbs
Yeah.
up,
And even,
Beak.
yeah. And even though he's this big actor, it was kind of like, it's such a universal experience, isn't it? You've had a baby,
Yeah.
but you have to go and finish off a bit at work before you can really have time off with your family. I mean, how often
Yeah.
that happens. Yeah. It was just
Yeah.
really nice.
No, it was
Yeah.
good. So somebody else who's also just had their fifth baby, slightly different scenario. So I was thinking anybody under about 35 probably will have no idea who this person is. Her name's Bridget Nielsen. You can like or send some kind of signal if you actually know who the hell Bridget Nielsen is. But she's probably best known for Once Upon a Time being the wife of Rocky, aka Sylvester Stallone. I don't know how many husbands ago that was, but she's now married to somebody else. And she just had baby number 5 as well. Except she's 54. So she's got 4 grown children from previous relationships, like grown, and that meant, children in their 20s and 30s, I would imagine. And this brand new baby. So, without obviously wanting to get into a situation where, we certainly don't want to be perceived as being judgmental in any way, but I think it is a really interesting conversation. It's one that definitely crops up more and more in the media and on social media in particular. Is, because we have these incredible advances in assisted reproduction and IVF technology, that people who in the past simply weren't able to conceive and have a baby now have, much better chances. And that includes women, obviously, who are well past what we would consider to be, an age where you would naturally conceive.
Right.
So, there's questions here about older mothers and when or is there a time that's too late to have a baby? I sometimes worry as well a little bit that, when celebrities are sort of like obviously promoting and using the media to sort of show, wow, look at my beautiful baby, and I'm 49 or I'm 52 or whatever, that I worry that it perpetuates the myth that IVF will work for everybody at any age.
Yep.
And will put people, or not put people off, but it will essentially, people go, oh, I've got time, like there's always IVF. And the reality is that it doesn't work for everybody, and that includes even women significantly younger than Bridget Nielsen is, people in their late 20s and early 30s. So and you mentioned some really good things before about
but when is the right time?
When is the right time to have a baby?
I know.
Exactly.
That's right. And I feel like every time, and it happens every now and then, we do this cycle, I think, in media where something like something kind of starts this whole conversation of, how old is she going to be when the baby is 20? What's that experience going to be like for the child? All these sort of ethical discussions about her rights
what
to
if the
autonomy,
parents die? Like
all this sort of stuff that comes up. And then inevitably someone says, oh, women are waiting too long to have their baby, as though, she's out there in a vacuum making all these fertility decisions without everything else that's going on around her, I mean, like we were just saying earlier, under 25, you're a young mum. You get flagged at risk because you're under 25. And socially
you weren't
that's
planning
now,
that baby, clearly, right? You get that
clearly couldn't be. Yeah. And, I had 3 under, I think, 25 at some point. But anyway, and then, if you're over 35, you get all these lovely terms like geriatric pregnancies and advanced maternal age. So you're clearly too old to be having a baby then.
Yep.
And then between the ages of 25 and 35, you're looked at like, why would you even think about having a baby? You need to get your career on the way. So
Absolutely.
it just seems like we
So
are kind of
basically,
damned if we
screwed.
do and damned if we don't. Absolutely, totally screwed.
Yeah.
And I think also, you know, realistically, most women are wanting a partner when they'd like to have a baby, and that, you know, there can be a lot of, I guess, hurdles in that way, you know, and just socially. I mean, a lot of people are settling down in their mid-30s. Hospital I work at, we have a lot of first-time mums in their mid-30s. That's kind of the first time. That's when you're even thinking about getting, even 40, 41 is not an unusual time.
Yeah. And I noticed that in
on.
I noticed that in my childbirth classes as well. I mean, I teach privately, so that already is a bit of a skewed demographic compared to, say, just a general hospital antenatal class. But on average, the women in my class are, you know, probably in their, you know, mid-30s. But yeah, I've had plenty of women in their late 30s and early 40s as well, including single mothers by choice as well. And women who just went, you know, well, you know, Mr. Right on the white horse didn't come, or Miss Right for that matter, and I'm just going to go ahead and have my family. So it's a really tough one. I mean, I guess, you know, if you kind of want to take all the emotion out of the topic, the fact is that, you know, despite the fact that, you know, as particularly, you know, people in first world countries are generally living longer and are healthier in general, you know, on the inside, internally, you know, our eggs, you didn't get that message really. So you know, we might be, you know, physically well and fit and healthy and looking after ourselves and eating and exercising and all those things, but it really, we know that fertility is affected, and you know, and there are added risks. I mean, you as a midwife, you know, are all too aware that, you know, when you get past a certain point, and I'm certainly not talking about women in their mid-30s. I had my children at 36 and 37, so, you know, I faced that. But there does come a cutoff point, you know, whether you want to call that 40 or 40, who knows. But we can't ignore the fact that there are risks, and both to mum and to baby. So it is. I don't think there's any real easy answers. I don't know. If anybody's got any comments or thoughts or whatever, please do post your opinions. All opinions are welcomed.
Absolutely. And I think anytime we have this conversation as well, you know, it's all good to have this really good theoretical discussion about the ethics of it all. But at the end of the day, I just want to see men brought in a little bit more to the discussion. Like, you know, I'm sure, you know, we mentioned this, well, it all kind of seems like every time this happens, it's the women that get blamed for every damn thing that goes wrong. We know that sperm health as well decreases after a certain age, so I'm really happy to hear that, because we always keep hearing about all the terrible women having babies with their old eggs. But, you know, really as a population, you know, when you're 16 and you want to have sex all the time and your hormones are all over the top, that's because biology is probably saying it's a great time for you to start having babies.
Exactly.
Socially, that might not be the best decision for a lot of people. There's a lot of other things going on.
Economically, there's a few reasons why not, but
exactly. So I don't know when the perfect time is, but I anyway wish her very well.
Yes, and cute bub. So there's another story which was I read this in really pretty hard-hitting article. It was in The Guardian Australia yesterday. It's a little bit more of a serious kind of topic, but I think it raises lots and lots of really, really important discussion. So some of you might have seen this, and it's not the first time it's been reported on, but I think this is the first like really in-depth piece of investigative journalism. So it's regarding a disgraced obstetrician who was based in Tari, called Dr. Emil Shorki-Gayed. And we'll maybe post a link to the Guardian article. I've posted it on my Facebook page as well. I mean, it's hard reading, and to really read these women's awful stories and experiences, and what happened to them as a result of his negligence and, um, you know, really, terrible practice.
Yeah.
But it's, essentially, I think what's happened is a little bit like the Me Too movement in some ways. And I think it took one or two really brave women to come
Yeah.
forward and go public with their story. And that's now opened the gates a little bit for some other people that were really fearful of going
Yeah.
public. So,
Yeah.
essentially, this man practiced for years and years and was apparently well known within his professional community as
Mm.
being a really dodgy doctor.
Right.
And to the point where, midwives would warn women, make sure you don't get seen by him, do whatever you can not to, but it's a small town, and this, and as a result, there was sometimes instances where he was literally the only ob on call. And so
Yeah.
women had no choice but to be under his care, particularly for surgeries and other and procedures. And there's just some awful stories. So, this raises lots and lots of issues around, patient rights, informed consent,
Yeah.
but also just the big moral and ethical obligation that his professional colleagues had to call him
Mm.
out as being
Yeah.
incompetent and putting patients at risk, and yet they
Yeah.
didn't. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think when we first, it's only just really come out in the last day or so, and what I've seen from it, we had this sort of discussion about, was it just gross negligence, or was there
Mm,
a level of kind of intent to harm, or willfully sort of ignorance, like in terms of his intention, I'm not entirely clear about, obviously, very much.
mm,
But yeah, I think it really does raise a lot of questions, to this culture that is there, that is quite pervasive at the moment in
mm.
a lot of the maternity systems and hospitals around, not Australia, but around the world.
Yeah,
And I think,
yeah,
the conversation, and again, we were talking about this sort of thing comes up, unfortunately, every now and then, and we see, like we were mentioning, there was 10 years ago, I think we were saying, all this information with the butcher of Bega coming out about how he
yeah,
was actually maliciously harming women, and I mean
yeah.
removing their
With
clitorises and
intent.
doing all sorts of horrendous things to them.
Yeah,
And it took over 800 and something complaints
yeah,
for his stuff to come to, and that was with
yeah,
like obvious and known kind of
yeah,
hurt. So it's like, what is happening in this culture that's allowing harmful people to continue practicing?
yeah.
And like we were saying, I think I'd love to hear from people if anyone has any sort of thoughts or ideas or experiences with complaints, or how they're handled with obstetric bodies, or with like APRA or these sort of bodies, because um, you know we know in steep contrast, independent midwives, I can't remember the statistic, but I think almost half of them have had some sort of investigation about their practice.
I would be surprised if it was anything less than about 80%. I
Yeah,
don't know. I actually
yeah,
don't know an independent midwife who hasn't at some point had some
right.
kind of APRA,
Yeah,
investigation or something.
yeah, and
And
yet, and
I
this is such an extreme. Yeah,
absolutely. And and with Graham Reeves, aka the Butcher of Bega, I mean, what a name
yeah.
to,
Oh,
it just makes me
horrendous.
really makes my blood
Yeah,
go cold when I think of
yeah,
that. But I was reading a little bit about him. So back as far as 1997, the New South Wales Medical Board were basically telling him, you need to stop practicing. You don't have the mental capacity to continue practicing medicine. 1997. And yet it wasn't until 2004, 7 years later, that this man was
wow,
struck off the medical register. And as you said,
right.
800 plus, individual complaints against this
Yeah,
guy. And this guy, Gayed,
yeah,
the doctor from Tari. So as it stands currently, he's had a 3-year deregistration, but it's sort of essentially temporary. So what is to
Right.
stop this guy from up and, setting himself up somewhere, remote, where, he's out of the big cities and the big hospitals, and people perhaps less likely to be doing a full investigation.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's to me, I mean, without sounding like a complete radical feminist, it
Oh, go
really does
ahead.
reek. It
Lead.
apologies to any men who are watching, but
That's okay. Men can be
this
feminists too.
yeah, that's true. That is very true. But if this isn't the best example of the old boys club and this
Yeah.
patriarchal system that we do often talk about, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
And it just sort of shocks me that, look, we should put this into perspective and obviously acknowledge that the overwhelming majority of healthcare practitioners
Yeah.
are really good.
Yeah.
They're good at their job. They are ethical. They work to really high ethical moral standards, and
Yep.
their number one, care and responsibilities for their patients. So almost all of them do the right thing. And then you
Absolutely.
you have these bad eggs here, there, and everywhere, as you said, do crop up from time to time.
Yeah.
So I guess where I question it is if they are essentially quite, infrequent, why are
Mm.
they not getting picked up more easily?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because these are really quite serious claims.
Yes.
They were known in their communities by other professionals who worked with them that they were bad eggs,
Yeah.
and tried to warn. So, either A, why didn't somebody have the guts to stand up and say and call this guy out and, and
Yep.
be that whistleblower?
Yep.
Or B, why don't our peak bodies like RANSCOG, APRA, AMA, why don't they have within their systems a way of flagging these unusual incidences so that if there's one person in particular that keeps cropping up, that
Yeah.
they're not identified early on, and potentially could prevent some of these awful outcomes for these poor women who now have to live for the rest of their lives, with the the butchery that they experienced at the hands of these doctors.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't know enough about the process and about the procedure, but it seems to me, yeah, like there's a lot of questions about that, and I'd be really interested to know. I mean, especially if anyone was watching or anyone who has any thoughts or experiences with this, because we know that like obstetrics and gynae, it's probably the most litigious. It is
Yeah,
almost definitely the most litigious area of medicine. So
yeah,
it's definitely the area where insurance costs are high, where there are a lot of complaints, where there are things that are unexpected. So I would imagine that there'd be a certain number of complaints and processes that most or a good number of care providers will have experienced in their lifetime.
yeah,
And that's just something that like I think facts are facts and something that we know.
yeah,
But yeah, what is it that's I guess I can see it as really a systemic issue, and I think that that's really concerning to me. It's
yeah,
clearly there are voices on the ground that are either
mm,
being stifled or not being heard.
yeah,
I know in this article from The Guardian, one of the women talks about being really fearful to say anything about this
yeah,
doctor's practice because it's such a small town, everyone knows everyone. This doctor was seen with so much power that
yeah,
if she was to start speaking up, then no one in town would look after her sons, and no one would. So there's a
yeah.
great deal of fear on quite a few levels about speaking out.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And
it's
even
very.
in
Anyway, I
bigger
think it's
hospital, yeah, yeah. As I say, I know
yeah,
even in big hospitals and major metropolitan cities, there is an ongoing issue where, midwives are silenced and don't have the same, not the same rights, but certainly, struggle to be able to call out, an obstetrician, if they see something that they don't feel is best practice. And I mean, it's, there is that hierarchy, in our maternity care system. I mean, there's been to some degree, they've tried here in Victoria to make that process a little bit more transparent, because they made some quite major changes to the Health Complaints Act. But the flip side of that is the door for complaints to be made against anybody is now wide open, and that would include not just the team, internal team at the hospital, but people like doulas coming into hospitals as well and supporting women. So it's becoming a really kind of messy grey area.
And it is, I think we do have actually, it's very strange. For me, the real anomaly is how these things, like you say, hundreds and hundreds of people can make complaints around one person and yet nothing's done. But we do have quite a strong culture of blame in our maternity system in Australia. Often this is the only recourse for parents in order if something goes wrong, that, compared to, say, the New Zealand system, where there's kind of no faults payouts and things when babies need help at birth or are unwell or have long lives that, need extra support. So it is a weird juxtaposition of this intense culture of blame where, you can feel at the same time under intense scrutiny for very small things. And I think some people obviously feel it than others. And I think, like what you're saying, is a lot of it comes down to power. Unfortunately, is rich middle-aged white men getting away with a lot more than everyone else does, and being in small towns, having a lot more power. There's a lot less people to go to, a lot less options for care. I think that really, we have to really recognize that really restricts a lot of people. And I think not just where to go for care, but when you talk about people in systems, is where can they go for work? So if they burn their bridges, for example, or they're not heard in a certain system.
At the one hospital or the one regional, medical center. Yeah, exactly.
That's it. So anyway, like I said, I probably don't know enough to talk too much, but I would really keen if anyone has any thoughts about this or experiences in this area.
And I'm sure that I'm sure this story is going to continue, and we will kind of launch lots of sort of sub articles that will come off this as we get to know more about this particular case. It's definitely not going to be the last piece on it. So
no, unfortunately it really won't. And I mean, like we were saying earlier, it feels like this really huge case, but I feel like, every day things happen. Every day things happen with women in obstetrics and gynae where we feel vulnerable and we things are done to us that we're not really consenting to. We don't necessarily have the open conversations that we do in other areas of health. You're less likely to get second opinions, things like that. So I guess on the ground for me, the take home is really just about opening up those conversations more and as women, not being trying not to be intimidated by that.
That's
and then on a good note, though, because we have to finish things in a happy note.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did we want? I don't remember what else we wanted to talk about. Sorry, I've just gone blank.
Well, we had one of the heavier story. We might leave that one for next time, which is about the pharmacist in the US. But
let's talk about that.
It's an interesting story, but we can save that one.
We can leave that. I think we have to mention very briefly these baby packs that have have come out just before it gets dated, because we're both just like, what the heck are you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very expensive PR stunt. It doesn't help anyone.
Yeah. So this is the baby bundle.
That's right.
Newborn baby, kind of like it's apparently modeled on the finished baby boxes, but please, they are not the same as the beautiful and practical evidence-based packages that women in Finland get.
And Canada and other countries, because they're missing the main thing, which is the box. They're really missing
the box, which is all about SIDS, risk reduction. So, as well as, I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of that baby box in Finland, but it's phenomenal. All the stuff that's in there, it's practical, and it's got things like, cloth nappies
Yeah.
and a full winter and a full summer, kit, and
Yeah.
and baby blankets and swaddles and stuff that parents actually need.
Well, that's right. And it's the stuff that really sets you up, isn't it, for the first few months of your baby's life. You really, if you were
Yeah.
given that, you could actually, you'd be quite, it would be
Yeah.
enough, really. You have a boob, you've got a blanket, you're good to go. Whereas
Yep.
this, it has just disposable nappies and
Yep.
wipes and some other kind of weird things that most parents are actually quite capable of purchasing.
Yeah. Yeah.
We probably give more away for free in the hospital when you have your baby, I'll be
Yeah.
honest.
It's kind of a glorified bounty bag, really, isn't it? That's kind of what I
Yeah.
see it being.
I think
A little book.
the nicest thing in the entire box is that sleep suit, which is, and I heard that it's supposed to, I think it's the main purpose in it is to try and offer items that help with safe sleeping. By the way, haven't slept since yesterday, worked all night, so my words are kind of
You're
eluding
slurring
me a
your
little
words.
bit.
It's all right.
A little bit, just a little bit of slurring going on over here. But yeah, so but and then I think it's including, I haven't seen the full thing, but on one of the reports it said it included dummies. I'm like, hold on a second. We know that is not an evidence-based intervention. And we're just adding things left, right, and center.
Yeah, and that it undermines breastfeeding, we know. And Ashley's made a good point here. So she's suggested, how about one government-funded visit with a perinatal psychologist, a board-certified lactation consultant, a brilliant use of that money instead of spending $13.5 million a year on crap. I mean, it's not crap. It's just, as you said, it's just stuff that people are just going to get anyway. It's a necessity. I mean, you need your wipes and you need the nappies, whether you go cloth or disposable or whatever. But, we know that we are just letting our new mums down in the postnatal period so badly in this country. Yeah. The rates of perinatal anxiety, depression are just through the roof. Our breastfeeding rates, are pretty appalling, to be honest, when you get to around the sort of the 3-4 month mark postpartum, and we know that is largely because of lack of support and lack of education, and LCs should absolutely be rebatable through Medicare. I mean, it is a public health issue.
I mean, there are some rebates available with an LC, but I do like the idea of having a fully funded, because the rebates are very minimal compared to how much it costs to actually access a private LC. Or even just having more breastfeeding education for child and family health nurses. That's not an essential component in their study, in their education. So the education, depending on where you go, is really varied. Like you're saying, PND is a lot of women with anxiety and depression after having babies, lack of social support. And there's so many other ways this money could be used well. There was a 100%. Good amount of money spent on increasing the number of midwives, I think up to 100 new midwives or something, which is a good start. But it would be nice if, as a midwife myself, I would love to see my scope extended and to be able to do follow-up care with women up to the 6-week mark, because that's where I'm supposed to be working with women, up to 6 weeks.
And private midwives do that. Private midwives will basically do, depending on their package, but essentially it's unlimited support for the first 6 weeks postpartum. That, or perhaps, apart from just those immediate home visit, domicile visits when a woman goes home, having a 6-week mark appointment with her, and then perhaps even 3 months, when she hits the end of that magic 4th trimester, just to see how she's genuinely doing and coping, and seeing if there are other support services that she needs. Because we tend to just leave these poor parents in a bit of a black hole about 3 or 4 days postpartum. And some of it's picked up by maternal health, maternal and child health nurses. A lot don't. A lot just really fall through the cracks. So,
because we cut down on even child and family health. I know here anyway, we used to have a new mums group, and then everyone could go, and now it's only if you have your first baby. The funding just keeps getting cut and cut and cut. in the areas that we know are really important, but they're not very sexy, you know. Child and family health is not a really sexy area. It doesn't, it's not a high acuity area like birthing, so it doesn't have maybe this feeling of urgency. But, you know, the bottom line is right now, the most tragic statistic is that women are killing themselves more than any other way of dying in the perinatal period. And it's just, that's just not acceptable. It's just not acceptable in this country. So, I've seen people say, you know, it's nice, isn't it nice? We're trying to do this great thing. But I actually feel for the people who have been advocates of this baby box. I've heard people in the profession for the last 10 plus years kind of saying, wouldn't it be great if we had something around like that in this country? And then to be given what is just the saddest excuse for a baby box. It's like, oh, it's kind of like that mission accomplished flag, you know, like.
It's awful. You feel like they've ticked the box now. But we did that. You asked and you received.
Yeah.
You know, we did the baby box thing, and it was a failure, but we could have told you that. I'm like, oh, you see it. Yeah. You see it playing out.
That's right. And when inevitably it has no impact on any of the things that it's supposed to impact, you know, it's just
the chances of a real attempt at doing this will fail because it won't get off the ground, because they won't because the results of you know, whatever, you know, research that they apply to this will show that it was a dismal failure, which is not a surprise. But you know, we were going to end on a happy note. What happened?
Oh, I know. I think I had to probably fit that in before I started muttering to myself in my exhaustion. So we have to, but I think we have to have a big congratulations to the Prime Minister of New Zealand.
Congratulations to Jacinda Ardern, and I love the videos that she's done on Facebook as well. And you know, she had that lovely one with her midwife, and another one just before she went home with her new little girl, Neve, I think it is. They've called her. Yep. Don't ask me to pronounce her Maori name, but Neve I can just about cope with. But she, you know, she's, you know, man, that kid's got a rock and roll model for a mum. You have to admit, like, such a cool lady. And I really think that I mean, New Zealand already has an enviable maternity care system. I mean, it's not perfect. Nowhere's perfect. But I really, you can only imagine with having a woman prime minister and a new mother, that this will absolutely, you can see this will be a priority in her prime ministership, that, you know, she will prioritize families and maternity care in that country. So lucky New Zealanders is all I can say, that you've got such an incredible PM. So we're very jealous, I think.
You know, I really enjoyed when she announced her pregnancy. I remember there was all this, oh, how can she be pregnant and working at the same time and running a country? And everyone was freaking out about a woman doing more than two things at once. And like, we haven't just constantly multitasked throughout history. But anyway.
Time immemorial.
I'm like, come on. And then I loved her response, which was like, I'm not the first woman to do this. And everyone else, you know, has figured it out. And, you know, she's in quite a privileged position. Her partner can be with her baby. And he's managed to pick up some really cool dad cardies on the way out. So that's awesome. And I just think, I just really like her. I like her attitude. And I'm really hopeful that we can, we can look to that for some leadership in how maternity care maybe can be done a bit better. Yeah. Hopefully they treat their midwives a little bit better as well. But another
Beautiful.
day.
So I think we did manage to, well, first of all, I'm just stunned that this call managed to survive technically. So I'm just beyond excited with that one. I think from now we're just going to go through your page, because clearly there's something wrong with mine. But we thought we would do this like on average every couple of weeks. A, so that you don't get, you know, sick of us, but B, that we have a little bit of time to kind of work on some juicy content for you. So watch Jen's page, my page. We'll announce with an event the next time that we're going to go live. And in the meantime, as I said, if you've got any ideas or suggestions for topics or things that you'd like to just, you know, throw out there, just be in touch with either of us. Let us know.
That's right. And if you're reading things in the middle of the night and going crazy on the internet and you feel like someone needs to talk about this, then we accept direct messages. So feel free to put it through.
Absolutely.
Easy.
Awesome.
Alrighty.
Well, I hope you go get some sleep now, Miss
Oh, I
Hazi.
will. Thank you. And you have a beautiful evening.
Thank you. And thanks to everybody who,
Watching.
I was going to say, yes, who put up with the technical palaver to begin with.
It was well
And
worth it, I'm sure. No.
I hope so. All right,
Alrighty.
everybody. We'll see you soon.
All the best.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.